Welcome back to Learn SKN, and today we're going to continue looking at some economics. The last video we looked at the recession, the causes of the recession, consequences of a recession, how can we help to reduce the effects of a recession. And so you can go back to that one, look at it so that you can come back to this one for unemployment. So today we are going to be looking at unemployment, the types of unemployment, the causes and consequences of unemployment. But of course, before we do that, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell. Please do subscribe if you're not a subscriber so we can grow the channel up to 20,000 before January exams. All right, so let's just jump right into it, looking at unemployment. So with that covered, the recession, we are going to be looking at one of the biggest consequences of a recession, which is unemployment. So what is unemployment exactly? What is unemployment exactly? Now, to define unemployment, you define it in this way. Any person who is willing and able to work and is actively trying to find a job, they are considered unemployed. So any person who is actively seeking employment and is willing and able to work but unable to find work is considered unemployed. That is unemployment. Anybody who is actively seeking a job and they are willing to work but they just can't find a job, those are who we consider unemployed. So somebody who gonna be on the blocks lying all day, ain't looking for no work, we don't even consider them to be unemployed, right? Those shiftless persons, we don't consider them to be unemployed in unemployment numbers. They drop out of the workforce, the labor force. They're no longer considered part of the labor force in a sense. So you must be willing and able and actively seeking a job to even be considered unemployed. That is why sometimes in some places, for you to qualify for unemployment benefits, you must show that you are actively seeking a job. You must show, okay, I had an interview this week, but nothing came true. I went for a next interview, but nothing came true. In order for you to get that unemployment benefit, you can't just roll up and show up and say, you know, I ain't got a job. You know, give me the benefits. You have to show that you've been seeking a job. Right? So you have to be actively seeking to be considered unemployed. So I know I'm saying because you have some person lying on 4th Street, them fellas, some of them ain't even considered unemployed. So what is the unemployment rate? The unemployment rate is the number of unemployed persons measured as a percentage of the labor force. So it's the percentage of persons who are unemployed, who are part of the labor force. Remember, the labor force is all those persons who are willing and able to work, who are of age and are willing and able to work. Those are the members of the labor force. But of those members, there are some who just cannot find a job, and so they are the unemployed. And so that's why we get the unemployment rate right there. So it's the number unemployed over the labor force times 100 over 1 to get the percentage. That's the unemployment rate. So the table here showing us some stats. Unemployment and inflation rates in the Caribbean. Very, very old numbers. We ain't even going through them. We ain't taking on that. Very old numbers. 2006. This book needs revamping. Alright, so that is how we define unemployed, the unemployed or unemployment. And that is how we define the unemployment rate. It's the number of persons who are unemployed who are a part of the workforce or the labor force. And to be a part of the labor force, you must be of age and actively you must be of the working force, the labor age, right? You must be of age and are willing to work, right? So that's the labor force right there. So that is the definition for unemployment. Now, there are different types of unemployment out there. Not all unemployment is created equally. There are different types of unemployment out there. There are various types of unemployment in the economy. The following are the types of unemployment existing in an economy, together with an explanation of the possible causes of each. So the first one we have on the docket here is what we call frictional unemployment. Frictional unemployment. What is frictional unemployment? Frictionally unemployed are occupationally or geographically immobile. So they are occupationally or geographically immobile. Though there are jobs available, these unemployed do not have the skills to match the jobs, or they are unwilling or unable to move to the part of the country where the job is. Therefore, they remain unemployed. Also considered to be frictionally unemployed are those persons who are in between jobs. So you have basically two working definitions for frictional unemployment. Right? You have two working definitions right there. One is somebody who is between jobs. So let's say I am working here today, gave them my letter of resignation, and I'm expected to start a job in the next 2 or 3 months. Then between my last day at this job and my first day of that job, I would have been frictionally unemployed between the friction between two. Right? So remember friction is created when you have two forces rubbing against each other. So we're talking about the two jobs, the old and the new, and you between there transitioning from the old to the new. That's frictional unemployment. Or it could also be where, as I say here, jobs are available somewhere, but you do not have the skills to match the job, or you don't want to move to find the jobs. Right? So that's frictional unemployment right there. Then you have what we call search unemployment. Search unemployment. This occurs when someone who is unemployed does not take the first job that he or she is offered. The unemployed person opts to search for a better paying job or a more suitable job. So that's very simple. Search unemployment. So you're still searching. In essence, you're still searching for a job. So it's not like frictional where you're moving from one job to an next. Right? In search, you lost a job, but you're seeking one. You had an opportunity to get one, but you say, okay, I'm gonna try somewhere else. And so you have search unemployment popping up right there. Then we have seasonal unemployment. As the name suggests, seasonal. You can even guess what that is. Some workers only have jobs during a particular season, a particular time of year. After that, they're out of a job. For example, when the tourism sector is booming, some persons in hotels and taxis, jobs right there. Tourism is up. But when that season passes, they might get laid off, or reduced hours are laid off. So seasonal unemployment. Your job depends on a certain season. Some other construction jobs, some other kind of jobs based on the weather and things like that. When winter strikes, that job is put on hold, and so you cannot work for that time period. So seasonal. If you're doing fishing and stuff like that, certain times the animals migrate. When they're migrating, that's your chance to catch them. When they're out of your waters, then you have seasonal unemployment. Then we have structural unemployment. Structural unemployment. That is when you have a literal change in the structure of the industry. As a result, workers become unemployed. Right? For example, if you are moving from, let's say, analog or an old school based economy to a more technologically progressive economy, some persons would not be able to make that transition. Some older folks might not be able to latch on to the new technology. And as such, they might lose their job because of that. Right? They might become unemployed because there's a whole overall change in the structure of the industry. So structural unemployment can be due to improvements in technology enabling capital to replace labor. When they say capital replacing labor, we're talking about like robotics, automation coming in and replacing workers. So you might be on an assembly plant, then robots are brought in to replace you, and you're out of a job because the structure of the industry has changed. Right? Sometimes this is called technological unemployment, and you can see why. You humans are replaced with robots, automation, mechanization, and so you lose your jobs to the robots. For small open economies, structural unemployment can also rise from falling world demand for export. The firm in the export sector are forced to reduce output and to employ less labor. For example, falling world demand for bananas resulted in unemployment in some Caribbean countries. In Trinidad and Tobago, the closure of Coronis 75 Limited, the state-owned sugar producing enterprise, has also resulted in structural unemployment. So we would have seen that happen in St. Kitts, where the sugar industry closed and some persons had to transition to a different sector. So some persons lost their jobs because of a change in the economy, the structural change in the economy. Right? So you can see how structural unemployment occurs when there's a change in the industry, in the economy, and that resulted in you losing your job. Right? Then we have cyclical unemployment. This one should be familiar to you. Cyclical unemployment. Because what? We covered it just now. So cyclical unemployment. This type of unemployment is so-called Keynesian unemployment for demand deficient employment. Remember we said that the economy goes through a cycle, the business cycle. What they call it up here? I think they called it the trade cycle. Is that what they call it up here? Let me make sure. Trade cycle, yes. So the trade cycle, the business cycle. We remember that we said that this is a cycle that has booms and busts. So recession. So when there's a downturn in the economy, what happens? Unemployment. So if you're unemployed due to the cyclical nature of business, the business industry, the business atmosphere. If you're unemployed because of that cycle, that business cycle, then that will be considered cyclical unemployment. So let's go. This type of unemployment is also called Keynesian unemployment or demand deficient unemployment. So Keynesian here refers to the economist John Maynard Keynes. He is basically considered the father of modern economics. So most of these things that we are studying today came about from John Maynard Keynes, right? The demand curve, supply curve, all those things, that was Keynesian economics, right? So just FYI. There is a fall in aggregate demand in the economy. Remember the cycle, the recession. Consumption might fall, investment of firms might fall, government expenditure might fall, or there might be a fall in foreigners' demands for export. As aggregate demand falls, firms in the economy reduce output. Again, sound familiar? The cycle. As output is reduced, firms will employ less of the factors of production, such as labor. And that now leads to unemployment. So cyclical unemployment refers to the business cycle where in a recession you would lose your job. Then we have the last one. Real wage unemployment. Real wage unemployment. This occurs when trade unions succeed in raising the wage rate above the equilibrium level. As a wage above the equilibrium level, supply of demand exceeds demand for labor. The surplus labor is unemployed. Simple as that. It's too expensive to employ too many persons, so some persons become unemployed because the real wage gone up. In the diagram below, okay, we can see it right here. Right? So wage gone up. You owe the excess supply of labor. Unemployed. Right? Unemployed. So that's just how that is. Let me just pause to say that this particular concept has been challenged many a times because this was one of the reasons why a lot of companies were talking about they don't want to increase minimum wage. They don't want to give people more money per hour and that kind of thing. They're saying that if we raise minimum wage, it's going to be too expensive and so we're going to lose jobs. But this has been found not to be as dramatically true as those companies were saying, right? Research have shown that no, that ain't gonna happen, right? Because if you increase my wage, what does that mean? That also means that my demand goes up, and if my demand goes up, that means that I'm giving companies more business and things like that. So that's how that goes. What are some effects of unemployment? I'm pretty sure you can think of one or two, because you could imagine that you ain't got no money, things tight, that kind of stuff. So you could imagine what some of the effects of unemployment would be. But there are some benefits. Believe it or not, there are some benefits such as Unemployed have an opportunity to do extra training or to pursue hobbies. I can just read these just as they are, but really and truly, nobody wants to be unemployed. But if forced to be unemployed, you might end up advancing, making yourself better, starting your own business, that kind of thing, right? That might encourage you to go and do something you wouldn't have wanted to do before. The fact that you're unemployed. So that might bring out the entrepreneur in you. You're unemployed, that might force you to get out of your comfort zone and start a new business. Do something you always wanted to do. Travel, whatever. That might force you to do these kind of things. Right? So those are some benefits. Also, when unemployment is a certain level and things are picking back up, then companies will be desperate. They really want persons to work for them. And so you might be able to negotiate a nice higher wage than they would have before, because now companies realize, wait, demand kicking up, we need people, we need workers, so let's go. And so, you might get a higher wage than you previously had. Also, when unemployment reduces costs, push inflation, as there are fewer workers in the job, so they demand higher wages, and so put pressure on prices. So they're saying here is that when you have fewer workers, because people get laid off, then for them, they could now demand higher wages, because if you only got 10 people and want me to do the job for some of them, you have to pay me more, right? So for me who's still in there, unemployment could be a benefit. But then let's look at the cost of unemployment now. The cost of unemployment. Unemployed do not have the economic means to enjoy a good quality of life. Unemployment therefore leads to a fall in the standard of living. So we know that without even trying to explain anything. We know that if you're unemployed, things hard, things rough, things tight. And so that can lead to a fall in your standard of living. All of a sudden you can't afford this, you cannot afford that, you know where your next meal coming from. A lot of things gonna be happening. And none of it will be improving your standard of living. So we don't want that, right? We don't want that. The unemployed might be depressed and discontented, adding to social problems such as crime, drugs, idleness. So they say the devil find work for idle hands. You ain't got nothing to do, you might resort to stealing, right? That is so true, right? You don't have anything to do, you don't have any job, you're desperate, you want money, you might resort to crime and robbing and thieving and that kind of stuff, right? When people are unemployed for a long time, it erodes the quality of human capital in the economy as they lose skills due to lack of practice. Unemployment means that society is not using all its resources to produce goods and services. Having unemployed persons signifies a loss of output to society, as society does not benefit from the output the unemployed could have produced. So, out of all of those costs of unemployment, some of them really stand out, such as increasing crime, lower standard in quality of life, your skills that get eroded, and the economy on a whole would suffer because output is not at its max. Remember again, the production possibility curve. When you're inside, you're unemployed resources, and so you're not producing at your full capacity at an efficient level, right? So all those are costs of unemployment. So how can we try and reduce some of the unemployment out there? Remember the types we looked at? How can we try to reduce them? 1. Training programs will aid those who are occupationally immobile and thus frictionally unemployed. So training programs can help you get your skills up to a certain level so that you can now go and get that job you couldn't before. So that can ease some aspects of frictional unemployment. Retraining also makes those who are unemployed through structural unemployment more employable. So it's the training and education is a key here to try to reduce unemployment. Training will also assist those who are seasonally unemployed to find jobs during the low season of the year. So training can help to combat majority of the types of unemployment. Frictionally, train, get the skills. You get hired somewhere else. seasonally train your skill in some other area. So imagine you're a hotel worker. You might train yourself to be a nice chef. So when you have a downtime in the hotel, you got your own little restaurant, a little side snack it or something, right? So you could see how that works. Government projects such as construction of housing developments, schools, shopping malls, sports facilities, all these. So we're just saying the government spending on projects that can lead to a reduction in frictional unemployment, and also for people who are geographically immobile, as in you can now bring jobs to that person, right? So previously they couldn't go because the job existed out of their reach. Now you bring the job, maybe the government repairing the school in their area, they get a job for that, right? So government spending can lead to a reduction in unemployment. Job center and more advertising of available jobs will also reduce frictional and search unemployment. So you know that jobs are available, so you go directly to the source to try to get the job, instead of having to be going here, there, everywhere, hunting. Once you know the job is available, you go and try and get it. It increases the chance of those between jobs and those searching for jobs to find jobs. And then of course we have the monetary policy and fiscal policy again to try to boost the economy. Government spending, reduce taxes, all those things can lead to reduce unemployment. Regulations and agreements with trade unions to avoid making demands to increase the wage rate above equilibrium wage rate will help to reduce real unemployment. And so with that, we have covered unemployment. And so we'll end here for now, and then we'll pick back up later on looking at some of the content from the economics syllabus. Alright, so that's it for now. You know what to do, as I said before. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, let us get up to 20k subscribers, work with the channel, share so that other people can help them to pass their CXC subjects, right? So do that for me so that we can help to build the community. Alright, so thanks for watching, thanks for listening, stay tuned for the next video. In the meantime, you can check out our playlist for Econ past papers, other Econ lectures, POB past papers, POB lectures, more past papers for other subjects. Just browse the channel and get used to it. Alright, thanks for watching again.